Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. I am one of your co hosts. I am Dr. Joe Hamlett. And as always, I have Dr. Dave Peltz with me. So, how are you doing today, Dr. Dave Peltz?
How you doing there, Dr. Joe?
I'm doing pretty good. And thanks for the wave. So, let's get started. So, thanks for tuning in again. If you have returned for another episode, and again, thanks for our brand new listeners or viewers to the podcast. We also want to do a quick plug on our new website and all the fun stuff that's coming up. So, you joined at a perfect time where things are starting to progress and move forward. So, I'll leave it at that. But we do want to thank you for showing up, being here for our podcast. This is what we love to do every week. So thanks for joining us. So with that, just like we always do, one of us introduces the podcast and then introduce the topic and then hand it off to our colleagues. So with that, it is my turn this week to go ahead and introduce the topic. And so for today's topic, um, it is doing what you love. So, Dave, are you currently doing what you love? And if not, why not?
I love to sleep. However, there's a thing in the process where you have to eat
Yeah,
sometimes,
right.
and
Yeah.
but I do love to sleep. I think a lot of us love to sleep. Doing what you love. That's a good question, Joe. Are you
Yeah.
doing what you love? Doing what you love. Well, there's been times I haven't done what I loved.
Of course.
And
As
those stand out a lot more.
absolutely.
You know, I'll go back to, high school. I was not a fan of taking classes. I loved art. And
Right.
that was obvious when my senior year came around and I was not going to graduate. So I had to take a couple of night classes, and I took several art classes because I love to do that, and that got my GPA up enough to where I could graduate and get that diploma from high school. Um, Going into the military, I wanted to go into the electronics field, and instead I went into military police. It wasn't necessarily what I loved, but I enjoyed it, and for the most part, they say as military police, you're outstanding individuals because you're military police. You're outstanding in the heat, the cold, the rain, the sleet, the snow, the mud. That's not the part that I loved.
Right.
um, but I am doing what I love today. Right now, doing this podcast is what I love, and it's what you love, and it's what it's what we love. I mean, this is what we love to do. Is this podcast? So if you would have asked me 5 years ago, are you doing what you love? I would have been like, nope,
Right.
I
Yeah.
wasn't. I wasn't doing what I love. I wasn't doing what I wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I look at my career after my military career, law enforcement was not my first choice, but it was what I was trained to do. So I did what was expected of me. I have
Right.
law
Yep.
enforcement experience. I do law enforcement. Um, when I got out of the military, I had a degree in business. I enjoyed business, so I did business. It wasn't what I
Right.
loved
Yep.
though. It got me into the corporate America. It got me into a lot of great jobs, a lot of great experiences, a lot of great opportunities, but it wasn't what I love to do. There are two things that I
Right.
really love to do, and that's what we're doing now with the podcast and drawing and spending time with my family. Those are the things. Although I don't think there are too many jobs where you get paid to enjoy spending time with your family.
Right. Right.
So, but those are the things that I really love to do. Those are the things that when I wake up, I'm like, I'm excited to do this today.
Right.
Not because it's expected of me, not because I have an obligation to do it. I'm employed at a company. Are you obligated to show up? Well, that's what they pay you for.
Yeah.
When you get there, they expect you to do certain things within your job and maybe certain things outside of your job that wasn't part of your original description,
Right. Yeah.
but that's the expectation. Do you love those things? Maybe, maybe not. But you have to, we talked about this many times. You have to be honest with yourself. Do you really love it, or is it what was
Right.
expected of you? Were you expected to go in the military, or were you expected to go to college? Were you expected to move to a certain place, get out of a small town to a big town, or a big town to a small town, move from one state to another state? what was expected of you versus what do you love? And there are many people that are doing what they love and they're very successful at it. The question is, are you doing what you, our audience, are you doing what you absolutely love? And
Right.
you might say, I love my job, I love my company, I love my friends, but I'm going to challenge you. We're going to challenge you. Do you really love it, or are you doing it because there was an expectation and that you went down that path to follow that expectation to make someone else proud or happy or admire you or to be a role model? What is the real, what do you, if you could do anything in the world, what would those one or two or three things be if you were asked, we will let you do whatever you want and you'll be financially stable and secure and successful. What are those one to three things? That's what we're
Right.
talking about.
Yep.
What just, you can't wait to wake up in the morning to do. That's what we're talking about.
Right.
And
Yep.
every week I cannot wait to do this podcast, to share our experiences with you, to provide some guidance, mentoring, and coaching on your personal, professional, and career development. These are some of the tough questions that we ask, and some of these things that seem easy. Oh yeah, I'm doing what I love. But let's start peeling that back. Let's start going down those rabbit holes and see where they lead. And sometimes we realize we're not doing what we love. Sometimes we're distracted by something that's pretty shiny and sparkly, like, ooh, that looks cool and fun. I'm going to do that. And then you realize that after that roller coaster, you need a bucket nearby. It wasn't as fun as you thought it was going to be.
Right.
It's not it's like, oh no.
Right.
So I'll pause there.
Okay. So yeah, so you brought up a lot of good things in that intro, Dave. Just I think the key thing that we probably all experienced, you said at the very beginning, we probably remember those jobs or those tasks that we didn't love. Those probably stand out more than anything because those are probably the things we've done the most, not necessarily the things we love doing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll just touch on that too. Yeah, I love doing our podcast. I love being able to help people and to provide some assistance to someone out there so that they don't have to take the long scenic route. I know it's been
Yeah.
a while since we said that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really it, to be able to again help other people maybe get to what they love doing.
Mhm.
And so, but I think some of the things you touched on is that obligation piece, that expectation that we have to have a job if we want to, take care of our families and live. So oftentimes we do accept jobs or work for organizations that we may not really want to, just because there's that expectation to take care of our families and to try and live a decent life. But sometimes that's at a sacrifice to doing what you really love to do,
Mhm.
and not many of us get a chance to do what we love to do for a living.
Mhm.
That's pretty rare, but some people may intertwine their actual job with what they love to do, which is great. So if you're in that situation, that's a great experience to have, probably. But for me, it's not always been that case.
Right.
I've been able to do bits and pieces of what I love to do through jobs and organizations, but it still doesn't compare to what you said, Dave.
Mhm.
What's that one or two things that you would do if you weren't getting paid? If you can get up
Mhm.
every day and do that, that's the thing I'd really love to do.
Mhm.
But again, sometimes that doesn't pay the bills.
Right.
So a lot of us, though, we are in that position to do other things that, again, we may not want to do or may not enjoy as much. So I guess the question is, how do we get to that? How do
Mhm.
we, transfer to that level of, okay, I enjoy doing this. This is what I love to do. And how do we, make that our career? How do we make that what we do,
Mhm.
instead of the obligation piece or the expectation piece? How do we get there? I guess that's
Mhm.
the question that a lot of us have. Again,
Right.
me and Dave are not where we want to be. We're closer
Mhm.
because we're still doing the podcast. We're still doing other things that are getting us closer. But so what are some of you out there doing that's getting you closer
Yeah.
to that dream or doing the thing that you love.
Yeah. And we can look at like people that are in the limelight, the pro athletes, the professional entertainers, and a lot of them maybe they were raised in that type of environment. They come from a family of athletes or entertainers or musicians or doctors or attorneys or trades. It but is it really doing what you love, or is it just
And that's
doing
exactly
what's
what I was
expected?
thinking.
Because
Exactly.
you if you start listening to some of the stories that are out there from people that are in the spotlight, they did it because that's what they was expected or what they were
Right.
trained to do, kind of like in the military. That's what they were trained to do. But you look at where they're at now and they're not doing those things. They're no longer musicians, they're no longer entertainers, they're no longer
Right.
athletes. They've changed course. They're no longer, you know physicians or attorneys or tradespersons. They're doing something completely different,
Right.
and it's what they loved. They found what they loved, and we can even dig a little bit deeper and look at, like children that are, brought up in those environments that were child athletes or child
R-
performers,
right.
and they're in totally different places.
Yeah.
There's, I'm not going to mention the movie, but there was an actor in a movie, he was a child actor, um, was successful, wound up going into the military, and now is teaching.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a great thing, because it doesn't it goes to show that money does not mean that you're doing what you love.
Right. Right.
That's a money is a temporary motivator. It's a nice
Right.
motivator, but it's very temporary, because once it's gone, it's gone. So, we have to think about what we really love to do. Like I said, I love to draw. I love to putter around the house and do DIY stuff. I love spending time with my family. I love eating. And I love this podcast. I love, like you, love helping people and providing services so that so you don't have to take the long scenic route like we
Right.
did.
Yep.
I don't know if it was because of hard-headedness that I didn't listen to people, or I was stubborn and wanted to do things my own way, or I was just naive and didn't know, and I was just, like we've said many times, just going down that river on the raft without a rudder and paddles, just so, again, when you take control of your career, it's because you understand where you want to go. But
Right. Right.
understanding where you want to go may not be what you want to do. It may not be doing what you love. And that's really the differentiation. What we're trying to make in this episode is understanding and digging down deep and being really honest with yourself. Are you really doing what you love? Or we're not saying that you don't enjoy it, but are you really loving what you do? Are you doing what
Right.
you're passionate about? I mean, like I mentioned, and Joe, what we've mentioned already, when you wake up in the morning, are you looking forward to getting there before everyone else, or doing it before
Right.
everyone else,
Yep.
or doing it before you have that first cup of coffee? Are you, that's what we're talking about. That excitement about doing what you love. And I remember
Right.
when I was in college, I was enjoying it. I was really enjoying it. It took me to almost my senior year in college before I really started loving education, because to me
Right.
it was
Yep.
one of those daunting tasks that was like a last resort, my ticket out of, working a job or a career that I couldn't stand. And then my senior year I was like, oh, I'm actually enjoying learning. And then my
Right.
master's
Yep.
degree, I loved my master's degree.
Yep.
And a lot of people will tell you that they love their master's degree. It's a shorter program, but it's really the part that they love about their education, that career, or that educational piece. It's that knowledge that they've been seeking, and I loved it. My doctorate degree, now that I look back, I love the journey. When I was going through it, I did not love it. It was a lot
Right.
more than I
Yep.
had expected, anticipated. It took a lot out of me, and it took everything out of me to complete it. And
Right.
fortunately, I had a very strong support structure with my family and friends and colleagues that I could get through that. I love that I'm done with my degrees and my
Right.
education,
Right. Right.
but it's, to say, if I could just do doctorate degrees for the rest of my life and get like
Right.
25 of them, I
Right.
would be like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Don't need to do that. So, when we talk about doing what you love, it's really a lot of understanding you as yourself, as an individual, outside of the the influence that you've grown up with and that you've developed under through these different communities and organizational cultures that you've been exposed to and developed under. So
Right.
it can be very challenging to wipe that slate clean and really take some time to think about, am I really enjoying it? And if I'm really enjoying it, is it what I love to do? You can really enjoy something and not love it.
Well, Dave, I'll go back to you touched on this earlier. In this last um, monologue that you just gave, you touched on the fact that we're going down this path or this journey, and we didn't know where we're going, or we were hard headed. I'd say it's probably more the I didn't know what I was supposed to do,
Sure,
didn't
sure.
have any mentors, didn't have
Yeah.
any anybody ahead of me that were
It's a
doing these
part of the
things.
growing process and learning
It
process.
was part of that journey that again, it wasn't until I did that, and you touched on this, the critical self-reflection, to kind of identify who I was, where I wanted to go. And that's when it all changed for me. That's when I decided, okay, I'm just jumping in this car going and not knowing where my destination was. I was just
Mhm.
basically driving around in circles. And it wasn't until I said, hey, I want to go this direction, that's when it started to make sense for me. And that's when I
Mhm.
started to understand I need to take ownership of
Mhm.
who I am, where I want to go. And you touched on those things too.
I
So
like that you
that's
said you
how
take
this
ownership. You have to take ownership.
yeah,
That's awesome.
because we were relying on what other people said, what their suggestions, recommendations, their thoughts of what you should be doing. That's what was guiding us, or guiding me anyway. And so that's why I was going down the path I was going. It started all when my dad said, hey, you got a couple of choices: you join the military or you get a job. And
Mhm.
that's when it all started for me, that decision to do one of the other things. And at the time, neither one of those were appealing to me. So I joined the military, and 35 years later, nearly, that's what came of that. So that's when for me, taking ownership, back when I started back to school, and made it finally stick for myself.
Mhm.
That's when things happen. And like you said, I started learning, and I started enjoying
Mhm.
learning. I was over the moon with how much more can I absorb? How
Yeah,
much more
yeah.
can I take in? And
It's
that's
like a
what
learning
excited
high.
me.
It's like you're
It
it's
was,
just
it
it's
really
like it was like a
was.
rush to find out what you're capable of doing.
And that's the other side of this. And that's why, again, I get excited about helping other people have that light bulb come on,
Mhm.
or they get that aha moment where they're like, I can do this, I can
Right.
go down this path, I can do that. And that's what it's been for me, this whole journey. Even now, again, me and you here on this podcast doing this part of what we love to do,
Mhm.
that all stemmed from, again, that curiosity, that wanting to do the things I love. And this is one of those things, like you said. So that's where all this started, though, that clear recognition of where I wanted to go. And that started with taking ownership, but but
Mhm.
but first started with that critical self-reflection, figuring out who I was, and then learning I had the ability to do all these other things. That's what excited me. That's what started me going down this path. And that's why I want to continue doing what I love at this level and even beyond.
Mhm.
So that's how it all started with me. And so
I
yeah, just
remember some of our early conversations several years ago. We were, you know, both successful by our own right, terminal degrees, good jobs, you know, everything was fine. Everything was good.
right,
But you and I would talk incessantly, incessantly. I mean, I remember sitting hours in my driveway after, we'd talk on our way home from work, and I'd sit in the driveway for an hour or two, and we'd just sit there and talk,
right,
or on our drive to other cities when we were
right,
teaching or
right,
doing other stuff, to pass the time. And it's like we were exploring all these different things and talking about the things that we liked and enjoyed. And it was you that said a podcast would be kind of cool. And I was like, a podcast would be kind of cool.
right, right,
And then we stopped talking about a podcast, and then we'd come back to it, and hours and hours of conversation. And the more we talked about what would go into this podcast? What would it look like? What would it feel like? How will we get our message across? How can we help people through doing this?
Right.
That we really started realizing that this is not a work of labor. This is a work of love. It really
Right.
is. It includes all kinds of facets of giving back, paying it forward, networking, coaching, developing others, helping others realize what they're capable of, because there was a time in our lives that we didn't know what we were capable of,
Right.
and
Right. Exactly.
helping people on their journeys, not telling them where to go, but guiding them, keeping them on the rails so they don't fall off and wind up in a ditch. So when we talk about this, I get excited because it reminds me of our earlier conversations. We were so excited when we were like, yeah, let's do this podcast. And we still talked about it for months.
Right. Right. Right.
And we were very excited about it. And we were excited to
Right.
talk about it. And then we got frustrated because we didn't know what to do. And we've mentioned this a couple episodes ago. All we had to do was flip a switch. And by that
Yep.
switch is press record. That's all we
Right.
had to do was press record,
Yep.
and here we are several years later. And it's a great feeling knowing that there's something that you love to do, that you get to do, and that you are doing.
Right.
Like,
Right.
we coach and consult on personal, professional, career development. We've mentioned that several times, and that's fun and enjoyable and it's lucrative. However, we love to do this because we
Right.
can reach a broader audience and help hundreds and thousands of people instead of just a handful of people at a time, or an organization at a time. We're able to actually reach out and convey things that a lot of people didn't realize or
Right.
realize they didn't realize.
Right. No,
So
and we've said this before too. We're at 120 episodes or so, and we've said this that if we only touch one person through doing
mhm,
this entire process, it was still worth it. It was still
yeah.
well worth the time and energy that we put into this,
Mhm.
because again, we're not trying to be the number one podcast out there on the air, on
That would be kind
on
of cool,
YouTube. That
but
would be cool, but that was never our goal.
no,
Again,
no,
our
no.
our intentions was, like Dave said, to help other people.
Touch as many
Again,
lives in a positive
yeah,
way as possible.
and again, if it only ends up being one person, which I
Yeah,
don't think that's the case, but we're happy with one person that
yeah,
takes it, just half a second of what we said and applied that to their journey, and
yeah.
they become successful because of it. So that's what it's always been about, is just, again, assisting others, helping them to, again, provide them with tips or things, and sharing our stories so that they can, if they're in a point in their lives where they're like, I don't think I can do it,
Hmm.
believe me, again, you're talking to two people that have had to, haven't had anything handed to them. So
Yeah.
we've had to, work from the bottom multiple times, even with
And
my
had to start
education,
over
even
several
with,
times.
exactly, being displaced in jobs and organizations, being, let go, and not by my own fault, or
Yeah.
something I did. But so been in those situations, and so if I can overcome it, if Dave can overcome it, you can too. And again, that's what this is all about, is again, hopefully sharing our stories and sharing our experiences, so that maybe you can take a little bit of that and apply it to where it best fits you. And then we've said this many times too, if we gave you the entire blueprint print that we used, even if we gave it to you, you still wouldn't end up in the same place we are. And whether you think we're successful or not, that's not the case. But again, hopefully this is just enough that can help you go down the path that makes it positive for you, because that's
Mhm.
that's the whole idea behind this. We've talked about a bunch of different things on this podcast, but biggest thing, that we've said probably on every episode, is that critical self-reflection, figuring out who you are, where you want to go, and then applying what it takes to get to that level, whatever that level of success for you is, or achievement. That's what we want to help you with here. And that's why, again, our passion is continue to do this, as long as we can, as long as
Right.
we're able. And so that's part of what we enjoy doing and what we love doing. And
Yeah.
so, again, at this level, hopefully it goes to the next level, and beyond that, because that's what we want to do.
So the question we're going to throw out is, the questions, are you doing what you love? And if you're not doing what you love, what are you doing to get to the point to where you're doing what you love?
Right.
That's the crux of this episode. This is really what this episode hinges on, understanding that, having that self-awareness, and the confidence and the fortitude to make those tough decisions, to realize I'm not doing what I love, and here's what I do love. What am I doing to get there? If it's to
Right.
be a
Yep.
musician and you're not playing music so other people can hear it, I mean, you can play it if you can play music if you love to play music, but I mean, what's the purpose of music? Because you want others to listen to it typically, and enjoy the gifts that you have to offer. And same with the trades. The trades are a freaking awesome creative way to do things. I mean, there's so many different
Well,
ways you
well,
can.
Dave, I'm going to go back to what you just said. The music is for people to hear and to enjoy it. Not necessarily.
Not
If that,
necessarily, no.
if you want to just
But if
play
you want to play an
music, if
instrument,
that's
then play an instrument. That's
right.
that's my
I mean,
point.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think it's again what we do is not to get paid.
Right,
It's
right, right.
to help a group of people. So yeah. So I don't want us to think that we have to turn that into money or anything
No,
like
no, no,
that.
no.
It's still like you said. It's still doing what you enjoy
Yeah.
doing, and if you are doing a job you don't enjoy, if you want to switch totally to what you enjoy doing. Again, today's point, what are you doing to get yourself
Yeah.
to
What are
that
you doing
level?
to
If
get there? If
that's
you
your
want to learn how to
ultimate
play, yeah, if you
goal,
want to learn how to do something, and that's because that's what you have a passion, what you love to do it, but figure out a way to do it. Make time to do it,
right,
be disciplined enough to do it. If you want to play guitar, that's great. Do it.
right,
What's stopping you? You know,
yep,
what's stopping you from playing a guitar? If that's what you love. I'm not saying you have to be great at it. If that's what you love, then that's the most important thing, is
right,
that you're
because
getting enjoyment out of it.
it goes back to that your definition of success,
Yeah.
what that means to you. Like we touched on it earlier, me and Dave believe we were successful in the things we were trying to achieve, but other people may look at us and like, wow, that's nothing to them. It may be that, but for
Right.
us, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's our
And
level
it
of
doesn't have to
success.
be a job or a career necessarily. It could just be
Right,
a hobby. The point is, again, are you doing what you love? And if not, why are you not doing it? And what are you doing to get to that point so that you
right,
can do
yep,
it? Because we all do things that we don't enjoy throughout our lives because of expectations and
right,
upbringing, and there's a plethora of reasons, cultural differences and cultural upbringing, nature versus nurture, all that stuff. But what we're talking about is, what are you consciously doing to do that which you love, whether it's paid or
right.
unpaid, whether it's for yourself or for others, whatever. What is stopping you from doing that, and why? So
Yeah.
we've got a couple minutes left. So I'm just going to say, you know, if you're not doing what you love, find out what you love to do and start doing it. Please start doing it, because it will bring you immense joy and happiness, if for no one else, yourself, which is important. You got to take care of yourself.
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Dave. And I won't add too much. Again, it just comes down to really figuring out what makes you happy, what gives you joy, whether you turn into a career or whether you just come home and jump on the guitar or whatever instrument you play or whatever that thing is that you love to do. Like Dave said, just start doing it. I mean, like he said, we talked about this podcast for a long time before we actually did it. But now, like he said, we can't wait to get here every week and get on this podcast and just start talking and having a good time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's it's all up to you. Again, you define what success looks like for you and go from there. But there's no time like the present. So start
Absolutely.
doing what you enjoy doing. So with that, we'll go ahead and end it there. Me and Dave rambled a little bit, but we get excited, get our words jumbled up when we talk about what we enjoy doing. So thanks for tuning in to another episode. Again, if this is your first time, thanks for joining us. And like Dave said, this is the personal, professional, and career development podcast. Like I said, we want to help you as much as we can. So if there's things you want to hear about or for us to discuss, feel free to leave a comment. And again, go visit the website because we got a lot of stuff coming, and we would love to hear from you. We'd love to for you to engage with our community, and we want to continue to keep growing and offering you more and more tools and things that's going to assist you in your journey. So, with that, we want you to continue being your not so ordinary you.